Turn up your volume. If you don't hear us, please turn up your volume. Thank you and welcome to EVISION Live with Dr. Alexandra Kleeberg
and Dietrich Busacker. Welcome to your healthy, happy, fulfilled life.
Well, you're watching our 11th episode of EVISION Live, and the next 3 will be on the topic of from victim to victor.
Yes.
We had this wonderful interview with Bettina last week.
Yes, she healed. She's on a healing path from cancer to a healthy, happy, fulfilled life. It was very, very touching, and it kept me feeling and thinking about her all the time ever since then.
So, and we are actually still thinking a little bit and working on this interview we had with her, and today we would like to dive more into this aspect of victimhood, because it's, as you would say, it's something like it's really the origin of many illnesses, is this status of victimhood in which we're in.
Yes, and she said there's something like a switch in her that she could push, coming from fear to trust, coming from victimhood to feeling as a victor or as a creator, coming from feeling determined by others to self-determination, coming from tension to relaxation. So she said that, and I think that this is very, very important for healing, not just only for the healing of cancer, but for healing any other disease or even for healing our society.
Yeah. Actually, this is why we are posting this video also with her, because this interview was to show what are the steps that can help you if you're in any case of illness, of disease, how to get out of this.
Yes, and the steps were, just to remind you, first take your time, step 1. Step 2 was get information, positive information about this disease or about this problem or about this challenge, however you want to call it.
Learn from other people who have healed themselves.
Yes, learn from other people who already did what you want to do. Just find your heroes in that aspect
and
learn from them. There are, for any disease, there are heroes all around the world who heal themselves. I've studied that for 30-40 years, and I know there are heroes for any sickness or for any healing of the sickness. So just find your own hero, your own model, where you can sort of plug into this healing field of this person. Yeah. And so the other step was just to find your own way, find out how this feels in your body, how this feels in your life. So those were the first 3 important steps she took.
And we have this blog on this also. So if you go to evisionpublishing.com/blog, you will find a little bit more information.
Coming back into your center after the diagnosis or after a threatening diagnosis.
And you will see Bettina again next week. We will have her again here in front of the camera.
Yes, I'm looking really forward to that.
But to prepare this a little bit, we want to dive a bit deeper in this question of victimhood. Because next week she will show us how she got out, how she used this illness as a chance for her life.
Yes.
And how she considers. So let's talk a little bit more about victimhood. She
went from victim to victor.
And where does it come from, this victimhood?
I think victimhood is...
How does it come that we are always getting into this state of victimhood?
It's an archetype. I told you I'm a Jungian psychoanalyst, and it's an archetype of victimhood, I would think. It's an atmosphere, it's even a zeitgeist, and I think it's almost the most rooted archetype in our civilization, because everybody is involved in that. Like if you have the archetype of the child or of a young man or of a wise old woman, then it's just to a certain gender or to a certain age. But I think the archetype of victimhood is very, very rooted in our society, in our zeitgeist. I think it goes back thousands of years. Maybe it started about 10,000 years ago when the first villages and towns were built, and the mighty needed slaves who were victims, just to build the pyramids or to build Stonehenge or whatever. They needed victims because they could manipulate them better.
People that they could manipulate, direct, and people who would follow them and would not question them.
Yes, they needed people to work for their own plans, who didn't think their own thoughts, who didn't feel their own feelings, but who were just like robots or like machines. So I think victimhood has a lot to do with the hierarchy of a system. It has a lot to do with might and suppression. So actually it's a political atmosphere, the archetype of victimhood. It's a social atmosphere, a political atmosphere, and I think mankind was a victim for a long time. Women were victims until now. Men as soldiers were victims. Children were victims, that's for sure. Old people were victims. So there is a very, very long tradition of victimhood, and I think it's ingrained into our brain, which we had as a child in this trance state. The victimhood is sort of ingrained in it. And as a child, you are a victim. You need a supportive surrounding. You can't decide for yourself. You can't live on your own, at least not as a human child. So part of the archetype of victimhood is related to the archetype or the shadow archetype side of the child. So it has a long tradition, and it's only up to now that we realize we don't have to live in this archetype anymore.
We don't need that anymore. Actually, in reality, nowadays we can have robots who do the work. They can be our slaves, and we can come back to our human nature, which is the nature of creation. This is our
creativity. That's so. It goes from the archetype of victimhood to the archetype of the creator, or creating something. So right now we have the knowledge how to do that, how to come from victimhood to creation, how to come from fear to trust. And I think it's not your fault that you often feel like a victim, but it's also your and my responsibility to change that, to get out of this old game or this old structure, this old dependency. Because what it does in the body, that there's always enemies around a victim. That might be the weather, it might be the president, it might be the mother, it might be the children, it might be the system, it might be the husband, it might be the wife. A victim thinks and feels that this universe is dangerous. And Albert Einstein, about 100 years ago, he said one of the most important questions people should ask themselves is, do you live in a friendly or a hostile universe? And this makes the switch. This makes all the difference. If you think the universe is hostile, is your enemy, fate is your enemy, society is your enemy, you are in a physical arousal by the sympathetic nervous system, and it's always running high. Your heart beats higher, your breathing is in tension, and you always look if there's something dangerous around. So you're very much involved into what is going on out there and not in you. Your body is tense, you close up, and you think, oh, this life is threatening, and this is not the state in the body where the cells heal, because the cells have to do something else, and they have to defend a potential enemy. So this might be one explanation. It's a historical, it's a political, it's a social explanation, and it nourishes the fear in our body and the sympathetic system. And I think that's the root of most of the so-called diseases.
At least the civilizations diseases nowadays we have.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, well, we were already talking our very first EVISION episode. We were talking about this question, this mental state of victimhood.
Yes.
When we were talking about this discussion, this book of The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani, who starts this book with this 4 stages of mental mind, where victimhood, he says 80% of the population is probably living today still in this victimhood, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary. There are tools to get out, and you can switch your mental state. You can switch it. So it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, as you said, and as one of our mentors, Alex Mondosian, always says. It's not your fault, but your responsibility to get out of this.
And we talked about that Nelson Mandela. He lived in a prison for 20 years.
So prison law, we would say it's a victim.
He's a victim.
Because
he didn't do anything which was not right.
He couldn't,
He was just a victim of the zeitgeist in South Africa. But I think he didn't feel like a victim, and that makes a difference. Sometimes we are in a position where we could be named as a victim, but it's still then, it depends on how we feel about it. And I think he did a lot of mental imagination, and
he already at that time imagined what could be this South Africa, and what could be that, how he was forgiving all the torturers, so that he would forgive them afterwards.
So he grew into his grandiosity, into his greatness, even though he was, we would say, a victim in a cage or in a prison. So it's a mindset. It doesn't have to do with the outer world. It's a mindset we have inside, if we feel as a victim or if we feel like a creator.
So what are we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what other kinds of victimhoods are there?
So there are a lot of facets or a lot of points or a lot of structures, aspects of the archetype of victimhood.
And you did some research also to prepare yourself for this.
I did some research about it, I read something about it, and I felt inside. I know a lot of those aspects of victimhood, maybe you too, but I'm more the victim type.
We have also been, I think everybody of us has been a victim, haven't you? So please write down here below, have you been a victim ever in your life? Please write down yes if you have been a victim, or no if you have not been a victim.
Or have you felt as a victim?
It's a question of feeling.
Housewives feel they are the victim of their men, and a lot of men feel they are the victim of all these women. A lot of...
So have you felt as a victim? Please write down, leave your comment below, yes or no.
A lot of workers feel they are the victim of their bosses, and the bosses feel they are the victims of the workers or of democracy or whatever. So the common type of victimhood is the sufferer, is suffering. Yes, I feel so bad, and the world around is dangerous, and I need help, I need comfort, I need trust, and it's poor me.
The weather is so bad outside.
Yes, so this is, I think, what most of us understand under victimhood. It's a poor me, or it's the sick me. Sickness can also be an aspect of victimhood. I have a flu, I have migraine or whatever, people have to take care of me.
Especially the chronic
Yes.
diseases.
Yes,
Are
and it's also a cry for help and for support.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, a common aspect of victimhood. Then there is the screwed up. I think I was that about, 40 years ago. I felt insecure, I've had low self-esteem, I thought I always did the wrong decisions and I didn't know how to handle my life. So I had that for a few years, but some of you might have it for 10, 30, 40 years, I don't know. So this is a part of victimhood. The Grinch, who is always negative and expecting a lot, and the world is a bad place to live and the universe is hostile. Then who always refuses everything. I had a client like that, and his mother was doing all sorts of things for him, and he always said, no, I don't want this, this is not enough, this is not good. So he was a victim too, and he felt like a victim, although this refusing everything empowered him a little bit, but it didn't really change the mindset.
Okay.
So there is the naive who said, oh, I didn't know. No, I didn't know. I know that too. Then there is this caring one, this person who always said, oh, what do you want? What do you need? Can I help you? And so forth. And remember, victimhood is driven by fear. For example, Mother Teresa, she was very caring and was working very, very much, but you wouldn't name her a victim.
No, she was not a victim,
no,
but other people...
She did it out of love or out of insight or enlightenment or whatever. But you can imagine another person caring very much but driven by fear.
Or because by fear and because this person wants to get something back from
and
it.
I have a lot of those people in my practice. They come with a diagnosis burnout. They have cared very much for this and that person, and they worked 10, 15 hours a day, and they are blaming others because they don't say thank you. They are expecting a lot from others. So this is the caring type victim. Then there's this storyteller victim. They always have excuses. They have this story, that story, and
there are always some reasons why not to change.
They run away whenever a problem arises. Oh, I have something else to do. So some are a combination of a storyteller and a runaway person.
Yeah.
And then there is this one who always feels he's just. And you asked, why is this a victim? I had a woman in my group, and she had an accident in her company. And she was sick for a long time, and then they integrated her back.
And the accident had to do a little bit with the company.
It had to do with the company.
So and she felt justice for her. This company should pay her and should
pay her and should give her the right working place and so forth. And but she couldn't concentrate on this working place anymore, and she got mobbed because she was so slow after the accident. And I had her in the group for quite some time, and the people in the group said, quit this job, it's not good for you. And she said, no, they have to do that, I'm on the right side, I had the accident here, they are supposed to help me,
this is my right,
this is my right. And we really made exercises to throw this justice stuff out of the window.
And you only got rid of it, you said, when finally the company, indeed, they just
fired her. And
this was her chance.
Suffered for, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks. And Then she got a new perspective. She started a new training in social work, and she became very happy. But this type can also be a victim.
Yeah.
Then there's this busy bee. I can feel what this means.
Yeah.
I've done this for quite some time. I was busy, and trying to get love, trying to get acknowledgement, trying to get support by that, or people who understand me. So you can be very busy, and you can even be successful with that, but still remain in this victimhood. Yes, I'm doing so much, and others don't say thank you enough. They don't see me enough. They don't understand me, and I have to work hard. I have a lot of these hardworking people, and they're exhausted, they're frustrated, and so this might be part of the victimhood. Then there is also the mighty.
How can that be? Someone who is mighty, how can he be or she be in a position of victim?
Yes, if this is driven by fear. So I have 3 children, and sometimes when I didn't know what to do with them, to calm them down or whatever, or to do what I want, I became like, you do this and that. I became very closed up and very strict, and I had the feeling, oh, these children, they are driving me crazy. And this sentence, the children are driving me crazy, is a victimhood sentence, right?
Yeah.
I have a switch that makes them drive me crazy.
Sure, yeah.
You can make a monster out of every cute child, out of every wonderful husband, out of every wonderful mother, if you want. It's just in your mindset. So, and we have a lot of these in politics, yes. There are some who are mighty, and
the mightiest men, women in the world, but they are driven sometimes by fear.
They're driven by fear. They are accusing everybody around. So they are also in this archetype of victimhood. And one
not making friends.
Not making friends, not coming on eye level, but the universe is dangerous. It's hostile. And maybe as a last example, it's the no victim. I come from a family like this. My parents were traumatized by the Second World War, but they had this no victim mentality. Yes, they said, oh, I can control everything, I'm okay, it's all okay, I don't need help, I'm doing it,
and we're getting fine along. Yes, hardworking people,
and I can control everything, I'm not a victim, I am superior, I'm the controller. So even if you deny victimhood, you can still be a victim.
Yeah.
So that's just as an example. There are probably many more. Just to show you, there are different aspects of victimhood, and it's not your fault. And it's your responsibility, my responsibility, to come out of this into our creativity, spontaneity, in our fulfillment. And this is, I think, what we will point at in the next interview.
Yes, with Bettina again, we will discuss about this, how she is dealing with her life, how she is getting out of the illness, and what are the factors, the aspects really that help her to get out of this.
Exactly.
And what creativity you can then develop.
Yes.
We wanted to give you an exercise, and show you a little exercise to understand better what does it mean to be a victim and to be a victor or a creator. To have this feeling. I love this word creator much better. as a victim.
It's just a play with
but
words.
It's a playing with words.
From
so,
victim to victor.
Yeah,
but
Alexandra is great in playing with words.
Yes.
So we just wanted to make a little exercise, and just imagine, if you want to join us, please do it. And otherwise we will recommend you to do this kind of exercise during this next week till our next interview with Bettina. So just imagine that you're really feeling depressed. Everything in the universe is so bad on you. Everybody is doing something bad for you. Your wife is not good to you, or your children are just bothering you in work if everything is not going fine.
You have to
the
help
weather
me.
is bad. Yes, I want to get some help. So just feel how this feels, how your body is in there.
Yes, if you're a victim, you close up.
What is a victim posture? Your victim posture is closed up.
Yes, but it can be like this. Maybe you stay in that and I take this other posture. But it can also be like this with a little arrogance. And it's also closed up, yes?
So this is a mighty person, arrogant and...
Yeah.
So, and now the difference is, we call them the pendulum exercise.
Yes.
And now just you feel how you really feel, and this is what your body is feeling, this tension,
it's tension,
this
it's narrowness
and everything.
Closed up, and
you're having maybe a little on your back, on your neck, it's a little bit stiff. So, and then go up and go into a posture of openness, a posture of
and the smile comes, and you open up. You go from the sympathetic system to the
so for the smile, I put up my nose.
That's the archetype of the clown. We will talk about that maybe in one interview, but this is an archetype which brings you out of the victimhood. I have one more example for that. I had a client, and she had a very, very terrible dream, and she was a victim in this dream. Yes, she was disgusted, she was scared, it was terrible. I don't want to talk about this dream, just it was terrible. And when you wake up with such a trauma, I always say, how can you change this so it nourishes you? Yeah. And she said, I have no idea. It's so terrible. She was in this victimhood. It's so terrible. It's disgusting. It's awful. It's bleh. And I said, how can you change this so it can nourishes you? It comes to a better end. It comes to a solution or an opening. Yeah. And she said, I don't know. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then she had this idea. She said, oh, I am a clown. Mm-hmm. And I go back into this dream and I said, oh, how interesting is that, how this human behaves? And how interesting how this woman reacts. Mm-hmm. And what weird scenes do these humans play with each other? And she was looking as a clown into this scene. And she said, this feels lighter. Mm-hmm. This feels more interesting. Yeah. You still have the disgust, but you have an energy, a creative energy that looks onto that in another energy and another lightness. Mm-hmm. And what is interesting, that after this dream or this solution, she made a training to become a clown. And now she is working as a clown, I think, 30 hours a week.
Great.
So this really terrible victimhood dream was changed, was transformed by the archetype of the clown, and it really materialized into her life. And I think this is a wonderful story.
Yes. So we close with this wonderful story. Okay. So next Tuesday at the same time again, you can see Bettina. We will have a wonderful interview, I'm sure, again with her.
I'm really looking
forward. Really, her interview got viral on Facebook last time. So, so we're looking forward to it and hope to see you again. And so thank you so much for watching us, and
Open your heart and start.